Hi everyone, happy Monday. So today we are going to be that was weird, talking about ecological succession. Um, Hopefully you enjoy these memes. Um, yeah, ecological succession today. You might have learned about this in living environment, but there's going to be two types, as the little baby saying, primary and secondary. And we're also going to be talking about climax communities. All right, so ecological succession is when a community recovers after disruption. And there's, like I said, two types, primary and secondary. And basically, um, the path to recovery is very similar across all ecosystems. Very similar things happen over time, and which is what we're going to be talking about today. So, as it's going through succession, there's going to be changes to the biomass. Remember, biomass is the total amount of living things in an area, um, as well as the net primary productivity. So you can guess that right after some sort of disruption, there's not going to be a lot because most things are going to die, um, as well as species richness. So those things are going to be changing during ecological succession. So, primary succession occurs when there is no soil or living things in an ecosystem. So, this could be after a volcano, for example. So, all you have for primary succession is bare rock that then, over a very long time, gets turned into soil, and eventually we start having plants grow. So, primary succession, no soil. Secondary succession is going to be there's soil left. There might not be any organisms, but as you can see here, there is still fully developed soil. Most have died. There could actually be some still surviving. So this is a good example of something that could happen is like a wildfire where everything burns down. But you'll see between primary and secondary, we still have very similar stages. So once the soil forms, primary is basically the same as secondary. We still have these pioneer, intermediate, and then eventually our climax communities. So you can see for both primary and secondary, though it's very similar. The only thing with secondary is that there's already soil. It kind of skips that stage of soil formation. So I don't know if you guys know where this picture is. This is across the bridge on the way to the 5 train. And it's typically mowed down once every couple of months. So would mowing it down be primary or secondary succession? Answer either YouTube comments or Google Classroom. All right, so this is an example of secondary succession. So not everything is killed when they mow it down. Typically, they'll leave a little bit of grass, but the soil is still there, so it is secondary succession. All right, so I want to quickly go over the different stages. So obviously for primary, we have soil formation, which we'll talk about when we get to soil. But the first stage is going to be pioneer species. So I'm sure you guys can guess why they're called pioneers. They're the first things that grow. And they're going to be small species such as grasses, lichens, mosses, and maybe a few perennial flowers eventually. It'll get to there. And they're slowly going to change the ecosystem. They're going to alter the soil quality. So having plants grow in the soil is really good for it. And it's going to alter that soil quality, which then it's also going to change the amount of shade and bring in insects. And all of these changes are going to get it ready for the intermediate species to come in and start to grow. Typically, this is going to be characterized by low biomass. There's not a lot of living things here besides the plants and a few insects, and also low net primary productivity, just because there's not really a lot of these just yet. All right, intermediate species. These are characterized by slightly larger species like bushes, shrubs, and shade-intolerant trees. So again, these trees are going to alter the soil quality and kind of set up for the climax community. They're going to bring in small species of birds as well as some small mammals. Higher biomass here, we have different types of plants. We're starting to get in birds and mammals. And also we're going to have higher net primary productivity because a lot of the grasses are going to be still around, but now we have trees. So I took this picture a few days ago, but you can kind of see, I would say this patch of grass is starting, it's like late pioneer, maybe starting to be intermediate. So you can see there's some like bushes and like scrubby stuff, like woody stuff growing here, with the perennial flowers and these grasses. So over here, there are some like woody species starting to grow, which is kind of late pioneer, early intermediate. So kind of cool. We're seeing succession right next to Truman. Um, And the reason shade intolerant trees are going to be here is because there's no big trees to overshadow them. Eventually, once we get to the Climax community, there's going to be some big trees if we're in a forest. So Climax communities are characterized by larger plant species, like trees if we're in a forest. This is very dependent upon biome. So as you can see here, it's not just about big trees. So a grassland that's the Climax community is grass. For a desert, it's going to be some woody trees, some scrub. Um, and of course, climax communities are going to also have the highest amount of animals living there. So there's going to be a lot of biomass here. And when an ecosystem reaches a steady state, which a climax community is considered the steady state, this means that it's not going to change much after this. Once it gets to the climax community, that's going to be what the community will be like for a very long time until another disruption occurs. Again, higher biomass, higher net primary productivity, and this is going to be, there's a lot of different types of plants and animals living in a climax community. All right, so for your interactive notebook, you are watching a PBS video about the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. And then you're going to answer the questions that follow. If you have any questions, office hours are from 2 to 2:20. Remember, the link for office hours is in your Google Calendar. So if you ever need help finding that, let me know. All right, bye guys.